Being in Waterways Forward, there's a process to the whole project. You started off doing a regional analysis, then you identified good practice, and now you've been asked to develop a regional action plan. So has that process helped you?
Very much so. It's really a thinking process. We have carried through the regional analysis with instance reports, down to the dentist toolboxes where the good practice have been identified. Now we're getting down to the meat of the product, where you actually have to produce a regional actionable plan. For us, it's really a national plan in relation to, particularly in relation to dredging, which we've been discussing this morning. It's very, very good to hear from other partners in relation to what they are doing and how they are implementing different legislative processes, including the Habitats Directive, because people have different interpretations and different countries have different interpretations in relation to how they are implemented or transposed from the European legislation.
And just to interrupt you there, were you surprised? Were you surprised that within Europe there was so much variation?
Well, I was surprised in the transposition into the partner countries and how then that is actually implemented on a day-to-day basis.
So they're working with the same policy, but the way they're working with it is being interpreted in a different way. It's interpreted
differently because, as we stated at the workshop there earlier this morning, that the planners, for example, in Ireland, may be given an added role in relation to being the competent authority in relation to a particular project, which may require planning because of its environmental sensitivity. So it's actually the implementation and how it's processed in each of the countries seems to be different, and that's why we're listening and learning at each of these workshops to see how it is actually transposed in each of the partner countries.
So planning policy is really important to you, and would it be helpful if that was maybe made more transparent as to how it should be put into practice?
Well, exactly, and we are actually asking for information or for legal confirmation in relation to how the Habitats Directive and how the terminology of competent authority is actually transposed, or maybe we may be the competent authority and may be actually able to do certain processes and practices in relation to maintenance dredging or in relation to long-term dredging from a strategic point of view. So we may be able actually to answer the questions which are posed and implement the Habitats Directive. In other scenarios, it may be that if a job is so big that it requires planning, as in planning from a planning authority, that they may be given the responsibility of being the competent authority to actually put down the stipulations or the conditions in relation to how the work would be carried out.
So hearing that the Dutch, for instance, have got a blueprint, a sort of timetable, a schedule of just follow this plan, this will take you through all the different stages so that you can now go ahead and dredge, that would be really helpful for you? I
would like to learn more information in relation to that, because this blueprint seems to actually be covering a longer time spell. It could be maybe 5 or 8 years. In other words, that they actually carry out a blueprint. They say to their particular people, we are going to be carrying out dredging at 10 different locations, and we're going to be carrying it out in relation to this blueprint, X, Y, and Z. So if that is the case and they get approval for that there, that would be something that's more like a framework permission to carry out dredging at 10 different locations over maybe a 5 to 8 year period. That would be very good for us, because in business planning in the moment, if we actually decide or we actually are told that we have money to carry out a particular project, you nearly need to be starting 18 months ahead of yourself in order to get all your ducks in a row, so you actually can carry out the project with all the permissions.
Okay.
But if we actually can use this particular blueprint, which we will hopefully find more information about, that you may be able to have jobs in a shelf ready to pull down if funding is available and ready to go because you're ready for prior approval.